Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to episode 11 of the Telemedia News in 10 with me, Jarvis, Todd, publisher of Telemedia News, Telemedia Online, all things Telemedia. Telemedia is everywhere now, and usually when there's words on it, it's written by him up there, Paul Skeldon, editor, chief, and brains behind all things Telemedia. How are you, mate? Good to see you.
I'm good. Yep, I'm good. How are you?
I'm all right, but I just always feels like such a long time since the last time. I've really missed you.
Yeah, you too. You too. It's a shame we can only do this once a fortnight.
Exactly. Well, you never know. If we get more than 4 views this month, then maybe we should up it. But
we should cover it. Absolutely.
Let's see. So let's crack on. This is our opportunity to go through some of the highlights and the low points of the news for the last couple of weeks, and we're going to quickly rattle through a couple of features. And the first one is talking about messaging, conversational commerce, which is coming up a lot at the moment. And in particular, how MNOs might not just have it all their own way. So talk us through this one, Paul.
Well, interesting bit of research from our friends at Mobilesquared, who are very keen on RCS, and they've calculated that there's a huge opportunity for mobile network operators to cash in on the fact that brands and anyone else who wants to advertise online is getting a really poor return on their investment for display banner adverts on websites. And that really what they need to do is invest in sort of conversational commerce, so messaging-based marketing that leads to sales and other interactions. And they've calculated, Mobilesquared, that this potentially could net mobile network operators globally $52.2 billion in 8 years' time. So assuming that I imagine will grow between where we are now and that over those 8 years, it's a bit of a punt in terms of I think it's a little speculative from Mobilesquared's point of view, but I think the reasoning behind it is sound in that consumers are increasingly wanting this more conversational approach. They're not wanting adverts. They're not going to click on banners. They're not going down that route. They want sort of messages sent to them, or that they can message to brands and companies and be interacted with on this much more personal level. My only reservation about this is that it's not all going to be RCS. It's a huge opportunity. And I think if mobile network operators really push RCS and really get behind it now, they are going to get a substantial chunk of that $52 billion. But I think they've got to be quick and they've got to be careful, because the likes of Facebook and YouTube and Instagram and WhatsApp are all chasing this down, as is Google, as is Amazon. There's some really big companies out there that dwarf mobile network operators who are bearing down on this conversational commerce idea with messaging and other things. And I think, it's an interesting idea. There's a lot to be gained for network operators. They really could plug some of their falling SMS and voice traffic revenue holes, but they need to really get on top of this quick.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. I mean, one of the things, it seems as though we've been talking about RCS in terms of, CRM and jazzing that side of things up. But it was an interesting take to say, well, no, it is actually going to be a really dominant sort of media form and advertising channel. And I was amazed to hear, I don't know, this figure of for every $1 million invested, just 1,000 is derived in value for brands, when in terms of banner advertising, which is extraordinary. And in fact, in terms of marketing and performance networks and affiliate marketing, there's been a lot of news that we're going to talk about a little bit later on. So, I mean, I think that whole landscape is changing dramatically. But I do think that the idea of the term conversational commerce being much bigger than just certainly just linked to RCS and certainly just linked to CRM, this does open up the whole channel as being a viable media channel for promotions. And if it works, and you're quite right, because the MNOs control that side of it, or RCS at least, it could be a really massive opportunity. However, I agree that this is a recurring theme where MNOs have got a massive opportunity. It was 20 years ago, we're saying they could be banks. They should be banks. They missed that one. And here's another one now, but essentially saying they should be media companies. So, let's see where that goes. And on that, there's a sort of recurring theme here, because we talked about the MNOs might well lose out again to voice devices. So tell us a bit more about that.
Well, yes, it's another bit of research stuff from Juniper Research about smart home devices and people sort of using them to buy things, and sort of doing their sort of shopping essentially through voice devices like Amazon Echo and Google Home and the Apple HomePod and those sorts of things. And Juniper's research has sort of thrown up that about $164 billion is going to be spent through these devices by 2025. So while that's not necessarily part of the advertising play that RCS plays into, it is part of this e-commerce move. And I think, while we've got sort of WhatsApp and Instagram and Facebook Messenger and even YouTube looking to sort of get in on the marketing, sales, e-commerce sort of thing, you've also then got the likes of Google and Amazon with these voice devices, encouraging people to buy through those. Equally, they're going to be talking to people back the other way. I think, again, this is a huge opportunity, but it, again, eats into this potential for mobile network operators because, again, it's just yet more big companies who are applying different ways of doing stuff to sell things to people and to market to people. And I think, to reiterate what we've said about the RCS study, it just potentially can erode what operators do. And I don't like to knock operators. They do all sorts of wonderful things, but they are very slow to react. And I'm getting this sort of sense that all these other things are starting to overtake carrier operations. So voice and messaging are starting to be done better in other ways through other channels with other apps, and that we are back to that idea that network operators are just going to be the dumb pipes that carry all this traffic and commerce for other people.
Yeah, no, I certainly agree that there's something there's opportunity, but the big question is, are they going to be able to move quick enough and wholeheartedly enough to take advantage of that opportunity? I mean, interesting enough, we'll talk about this a bit later on. There is some news where we talk about mobile operators in one particular country all uniting and getting together to offer a DCB in a particular sector. And hey, presto, it's working brilliantly. But we'll come on to that a bit later on. So the white papers, Paul, I wanted to talk to you about a particularly interesting white paper that came our way from the mighty Cap Gemini. And we've been talking over the last 6 months about how OTT streaming and subscriptions and video is one of those, red hot content areas that our sector is looking at. And this white paper seemed to have quite a lot to say about it, but coming at it from a slightly different angle. I'll just give you a quote. The paper explores the state of the media industry and looks to better understand the role of data in differentiation and gaining a competitive advantage across different areas like content sourcing, customer acquisition, customer loyalty, cost and lifetime value. Now, those are all things that we talk about in terms of some of the benefits of using telemedia technology, particularly, carrier billing. But this report seems to say, well, you really are now starting to look at the role of who's collecting data, what are they doing with it. And I don't suppose that it's any great surprise, but it just does seem to me that, when we mentioned earlier on with affiliate marketing, performance marketing, that whole area is becoming so focused on big data that I think this is going to be something we're going to be talking about a lot. And again, if you look at where we are as a business, look at the role of the operators in collecting that data and the kind of information that by the very definition we're collecting and merchants are collecting through telemedia or through telemedia business model. I would say that our industry is in a really good place to be able to say, I think quite clearly, that they're on top of this at the very least. And this particular white paper, from those that they surveyed, said that 70% of those interviewed declared data to be business critical for survival. Now, I don't think there's anything surprising there. And then it said, if content is king, data is now the ace, which I really liked. And it talked about data being crucial for content experience and personalization and enrichment. And that could give you a 70% uptick. Audience and data monetization would give you a 55% uptick, and content production acquisition a 40%. So if you're focusing on data, those are the kinds of levels that you can be increasing your business by if you put it, front and center. Now, as I say, I think that we're sort of doing that already, but I feel as though we're going to be talking about data a lot. And the final point behind the summary on that was that 2/3 of the companies that they spoke to or that they analysed had only reached the very basic level of data maturity. So even though we've been talking about this for a long time, even though it makes lots of sense, and even though the telemedia industry, I think, has been way ahead of the curve on this, it's staggering to see that a huge amount of companies are not quite there. And I think that probably represents an opportunity for telemedia companies and service providers who are selling their services into vertical markets to be able to bring quite a lot of value to those businesses, because to me, it doesn't seem as though they're quite there yet, and it is very important.
No, absolutely. It does sort of bring us back to the previous two stories we were talking about, in that the network operators need to be really involved in in more than just carrying OTT traffic, being messaging or media streaming or Netflix or whatever, because they will have a slice of the data. All these operators are getting behind you, rolling out carrier billing in certain markets or around certain services, or working with Google on Google Play to do it. They're getting a lot of data. They're part of that data game, and they are. The data is everything, isn't it? Is the thing. This is what Amazon, Google, all these people are data businesses. And they essentially sell that access to that data, or the eyeballs within that data, or the attention of the people in it. That's where they make money, and that really is what operators need to be part of and need to play a role in it. Which is why using the telemedia services that they have access to is increasingly essential. And I think they really need to look at that, really closely, and really get on board with it, because they're going to lose out in this streaming war, certainly, because everything is now streamed.
Yeah, no, for sure. And talking about live streaming, I wanted to bring your attention to we tried out our own little live event the other day. This is our first live webinar as part of the Telemedia 8.1 online initiative, which is our 3-month virtual event. If you haven't visited telemedia8.1.com, then why not? You need to sign up for free, start networking, and you can access a huge library of on-demand, fantastic presentations and panel sessions. But we are doing a live one on the 26th of November at 10:30 in partnership with the wonderful MEF Mobile Ecosystem Forum. And it's called Balancing and Retaining Revenues and Reducing Content Fraud. And that will feature Veeam Overwatch, Upstream, MCP Insight, VAS2Net Technologies, and the ever-present PM Connect. I know you're going to be there, Paul. And
I'll be there watching. Yep.
I'm expecting a pretty big audience for that. And I would just like to say, thank you very much to all the team at MEF, because they've been really great supporters thus far. And as I said, if you go to the conference overview, you'll see numerous presentations and panel discussions that have been put together by those guys, all of which are well worth a watch and well worth a share to all of your chums.
Absolutely. And it sounds like an interesting one, and it's a good panel. So I'll certainly be there on November the 26th, listening in, notepad in hand.
Do you still have a dictaphone with a little tape recorder in it, mate?
No, I use my finger like everyone else.
Very good. Now, listen, one of the things that we haven't done enough of, I think, is to highlight very, very quickly some of the news headlines and news stories that we've seen recently. So all of these can be found in the Telemedia newsroom at the Telemedia 8.1 virtual event. If you haven't signed up, if not, why not? He said again. And also, of course, on telemediaonline.co.uk. So we're just going to very quickly run through the headlines. We're not going to talk a huge amount about them, but I just think that in general, it's good news for the telemedia space. It shows that we're still dynamic. It shows there's a lot of movement in the space, and particularly encouraging to see, big brands and good applications for the kind of technology that we're championing. So first and foremost, I noticed that Mobipium, the premium performance mobile performance marketing agency, have launched Traffic Nomads, which is a new self-service ad network. And that was good.
Affiliate networking, affiliate marketing. Do it yourself affiliate marketing. Nice little dashboard they've got there. It's good that. Yeah.
So that was good. Then I saw this from Traffic Company. The #1 CPS network launches amazing new click-to-call platform. I ought to just say other CPS networks are available. But what was interesting about this, Paul, I thought was that click-to-call is kind of quite an old-fashioned expression. It used to be something that was very successful back in the day with premium rate. And these guys have come back with a new click-to-call application. Works a very similar basis. and they reckon it's the next big thing for affiliate marketing. So that will be interesting. And I think you, well done to David for pulling that out of the hat. And I think you're going to talk to him a little bit about that this week, aren't you?
I am in the coming weeks. Yes, we're going to be doing something much more detailed about that. Yes, it's interesting because they do click to call and click to message, which
that's right.
Has added a whole new spin to it. But yeah, again, going back to what was about RCS, that's all part of what this engagement is. See the advert, click on it, and actually talk to someone or get a message or start that engagement. Yeah,
simple. And collect all of that data at the same time.
And collect all of that data, absolutely.
So we've got a couple of other headlines. The ever-present mighty Centilli. I mean, you just cannot keep these guys out of the news. They've got a deal with Busuu, which is delivering a language e-learning product into developing markets. I know you love this, Paul. I was very skeptical about e-learning being a thing, and you called it in January, and here we are with Busuu.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't know a great deal about Busuu apart from what I've sort of read around doing the story on it. But it's teaching yourself a language. I think with a lot of people with time on their hands, they're looking to do stuff like that. I think as well with sort of schools up and down and all the rest of it, e-learning is going to be a really big thing, and people, parents paying for stuff to teach their children above and beyond what they're not getting at school anymore is also a big market. So an interesting, like I say, I called it in January, and here we are. It's starting to happen.
It's keeping. So some of you probably do know a bit more about Wargaming. Again, another triumph for Centilli. They brought carrier billing into the Wargaming world, a massive company. And the key behind this one, I think, was that they're very proud, and I think it sort of says it all, that they managed to get all the Polish MNOs on board. That's Play, plus T-Mobile and Orange. And we've talked about this before, some kind of cooperation between MNOs in order to drive the technology into the marketplace doesn't half help. And regional director, our old friend Lazar, explained that many digital brands need this type of carrier billing implementation, but delivering it is still a big challenge. It means overcoming fragmentation in an ecosystem which still partly resists the consolidation needed for high potential DCB payments. Poland is different though, so well done, Poland. Polish mobile operators are leading the way in tuning in payments to the needs of the modern digital ecosystem. This is reflected in their vision and strategy, their approach to partners, and their agility. So, again, it's Centilli, brilliant company. They're continually innovating, but I think that really does make the point perfectly. If you want wide-scale success in a marketplace, you do need those mobile operators to work together.
Yeah, absolutely. It just adds so much more credence to the DCB, for consumers, because it's everywhere. Everyone can do it. It's a no-brainer. I don't know why it's taken so long, but well done to Centilli for getting the Polish operators to do that, and congratulations, Poland.
Yeah, exactly. It sounds like the Eurovision Song Contest.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, well, no, but now, leading the world in doing this, so that's excellent.
Sadly missed. Then keeping the international theme, Epic On launches across Middle East with DCB from SLA Digital. I know done some country updates, I think, in the Telemedia 8.1 conference. Do you know much about Epic On? I was
Epic On. Yes, it's an Indian themed streaming channel that's popular across sort of India, the Middle East. There's a lot of Indian expatriates in Middle East countries, so it's streaming that kind of content to them on mobile, paid for with carrier billing. Again, it's sort of developing markets that are showing that this is an ideal way to get the unbanked and the sort of people with sort of limited resources engaged in paying for mobile content, and there's clearly a market for them to pay for it. And it's streaming, from what I gather, clips from Epic On Indian themed programming. People are going to pay for it. So it's great. SLA do a lot of work out in the Middle East, among other places. So interesting one. Again, one for the rest of us here in the developed world to take note of.
Yeah, quite. And finally, a good news story, although it starts off not so well. 20 million fraudulent transaction attempts made by video editing Android app Viva Video. I first read that and I thought, shit, that's not good. And then, of course, I read the subtext which said could have cost users more than 27 million in unauthorized premium charges. That's if the transactions had not been detected and blocked by those absolutely top chaps at Security. upstream, who again are featuring at the MEF aforementioned webinar. And their full stack anti-fraud platform caught them. They cover 31 operators in 20 countries. I ought to just say that other anti-fraud companies are available. But nevertheless, a big win for Secure D, and a nice way to end this particular podcast, because it just shows that within the telemedia industry, we're not only building business, but we're also protecting business from all of those dirty, filthy fraudsters out there.
Absolutely. And of course, with more people doing more digital stuff, there is going to be more impetus for more fraud. So, fair play to Secure D. We need companies like them who are, so on the ball and really on top of this. So, a positive one to end on there. Excellent.
Exactly.
Yes.
And I'm sure now that everybody we've mentioned, please do share the video here, and it's free PR for you guys. We hope you enjoy these little catch-ups. Please go to telemediaonline.co.uk to read the stories in a bit more detail and get a more sensible view on what's been said over the last 2 weeks. And of course, make sure you pay at least 1 or 2 visits to telemedia8.1.com, where you will be able to reach out to over 900 fellow industry professionals and access well over 50 on-demand conference sessions. So what are you planning this week? Anything exciting, mate?
I should be tuning in as ever to Telemedia 8.1. I'm trying to do 1 a day at the very least, because there's so much interesting stuff on there, which should take me through till early March, I think.
Probably will.
With a short break from Christmas. So I'll be doing that. We'll be talking to more people out there in the telemedia world and gathering more interesting facts, news, and other stories.
Good man. So I'll see you in the audience at the live webinar. I'll poke you if that's possible.
If that's possible, I hope so.
I'll see you at 10:30 on the 26th of November. So until next time, mate, thanks ever so much. And I'll
until then,
soon.
you too, mate. Take care. Goodbye, everybody. Stay safe.
Bye-bye.